It's time!
We got 3 events that we are going to be covering in this video. Number 1 is in LA, number 2 is in Irvine, and number 3 is in Vegas. Event number 1, simple 2-camera setup that I am setting both cameras to 30 frames per second instead of 24. And the reason why is because I realized that if you film at 30 frames per second when there are screens, the screens tend to flicker less, at least in my experience. So usually when there's an event and there are screens on the stage or anything, I set it to 30 frames per second and that usually does the job. It's a really simple setup. I have my A7S III on sticks and I have my A7 IV on a gimbal, which allows me to just get up close to the action and just get some more dynamic movements into the shots. As per usual, the name of the game is redundant audio. So I got my good old H6 connected to the sound booth for my main audio, which is always best case scenario. If I'm able to connect my H6 to a sound booth or a sound system, it just takes so much weight off my shoulders. I typically have them plugged into a power source if I can, because I just don't like relying on battery power for my H6, especially if I'm going to be filming for, several hours on that event. And that thing is just running the entire time. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any power for this event, but the event itself wasn't very long, so it ended up just working out anyway. And then of course we have my Rode Wireless Pro, which is going to be attached to the client who will be speaking on stage. And these Rodes have internal recording, which is great. I always have it turned on because if the speakers are too far away from the receiver, the signal might get dropped. I might lose bits and pieces of their speech. And if I'm not recording internally, that's going to be caught in the final video and I will not be able to salvage it. So I always have it internally recording in case that happens, and that way I'm able to pull from the transmitter itself and I have the full clean audio ready to use. And then again, since we're talking about redundancy, I have the Tascam DR10L that I taped to this speaker as a last resort. I wouldn't want to have ended up using that audio because taping a mic to a speaker is sort of like a last resort audio. You'll have it, but it really has to be like doctored up in post and then maybe it'll be salvageable at that point, but it's just not ideal to have to rely on that kind of audio. But sometimes if everything else fails and you have that, it might just be the best thing you have. Next, we are down in Irvine for another conference event, but we are trying something new at this event. Check it out. I have a monopod. Funny enough, I've always had this monopod. It was just kind of hiding from me because I used to create content for this one client that sold astrophotography gear, and they had a tripod where one of the legs turned into a monopod, so you can unscrew it and then put the head on and now you have a monopod, and I just never thought to use it. So I decided to give it a shot, and it was significantly easier filming longer speeches without having to hold my camera, especially because I don't have something like an Easy Rig or anything. So having this monopod just helped keep things smooth and efficient and kept my space small, so I was able to move around fast. And on top of that, I bought a telescopic chair, which if you've never heard of them, they are these cool retractable chairs that take up teeny amount of space when they're closed up, but they are super portable. And for events like this, when I will be holding the camera for a long time, it could start to get at your feet. So with this chair, I'm able to get up close to the stage, get up close to the speakers, and still be comfortable to capture the entire speech without having to worry about, my hands hurting, my feet hurting, and just making the whole process way easier. And then finally, for the setup on this project, I have my first camera on sticks, catching the wide shot in the back, and then my second camera on that monopod, catching the close-ups. Then for audio, I have my H6 plugged into the soundboard. My Tascam is taped to one speaker, a Rode Wireless Lav attached to the other speaker, and then my final Rode Lav attached to my client. Not to mention an on-camera mic on the first camera just to capture something in case all of these other audio sources fail. And then we are ending the day with some talking head. You can see that I have the shutter speed absolutely cranked to 1/4000. And that's for 3 reasons. Number 1, I did not have my variable ND filter, and I did not want to crank up my aperture because I wanted that shallow depth of field, so I kept my aperture pretty open. Number 2, it's a very basic talking head setup where there is minimal movement, some movement in the hands and stuff, but the need to see like natural motion blur is going to be very mitigated because there's barely any motion anyway. So I could get away with cranking it up to 1/4K. And finally, these posts are for social media where the client's audiences are mortgage brokers, lenders, real estate people, and these guys are watching it on their phones. So, they're more interested in what they're going to learn from the content, not necessarily how the content is filmed. And then finally, starting job number 3 with a bright and early 4-hour trip to Vegas. I think this is the 6th or maybe 7th time this year that I've been to Vegas. And when I started to work at the jobs in Vegas, my gear wagon was filled with tons of lights, C-stands, just like almost everything in my gear closet I would like take with me just so that I had it. And since then, from all the jobs that I've been working in Vegas, I started learning and understanding what the job called for, and now I'm able to travel significantly lighter. I take one light pack, I take my camera bag and some tripods, and I'm able to crank out exactly what is needed. And again, with this event, I lucked out because number 1, I was able to plug my H6 into the sound booth, and number 2, I was able to plug it into power, so I did not have to worry about battery power, and I just had it running the entire time. And the other source of audio that I was able to use was taking one of my Rode Lavs and using the metal backing to attach it to the metal grid of a speaker. I seriously did not realize how useful that little attachment was going to be when I first started using the Rode Wireless Pros. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a good idea, but I had no idea that I was going to use it as much as I do. It is a tiny thing, but it makes such a huge difference, at least in my line of work. And then also an onboard mic on the camera as a last resort. I'm using the monopod again for this project because it's a huge help when I'm not sure where I'm going to be for speakers, because sometimes speakers like to move around the stage, or sometimes the angle has to change because one speaker ends up blocking another speaker, so I have to adjust myself so I get both of them in camera. And if I have a giant clunky tripod, the legs can get in the way, people could trip over the legs or something. So having this monopod, again, just lets me be fast, lets me be small, lets me be tight, and I'm able to quickly move around to adjust for when speakers are moving and make sure I get the shot right.
First company when I was 19. I've had telemarketing companies.
I've been tinkering a little bit more with the digital zoom on the Sony, and I think I'm going to be a bit more selective on how I use it, mainly because a lot of the times I'm using it, I am in a dark area, and I do notice a change in quality when I'm using the digital zoom, especially in darker areas. But the other reason why I'm going to be very selective with it is because when you are using this feature, you cannot use the eye tracking feature on a Sony. It switches to that wide range of focusing, and so if you have something in the foreground a little bit, it might focus on the foreground instead of focusing on your subject's eye. And so that's why I'm going to steer clear of it a little bit for the next couple of projects, and just keep testing it out and seeing what I like about it. But for now, since I can't stay locked into someone's eyes when I'm filming them, it's just not ideal. And that's it for this video, guys. If you are learning stuff from these videos, if you like them, go ahead, subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one.